All right, folks, buckle up, because we've got a serious showdown brewing in Washington. And it's not just politics. It's the Justice Department going head-to-head with one of the highest-ranking federal judges in the country. The Department of Justice has filed an official misconduct complaint against Chief U.S. District Judge James Boasberg. What triggered this? Comments the judge allegedly made about whether former President Donald Trump's administration would respect court orders. Now, that's not something you hear every day. In a time when tensions between the executive branch and the judiciary are already sky-high, this complaint throws gasoline on an already blazing fire. So, what's at stake here? Judicial integrity, constitutional boundaries, and the legal fate of hundreds of migrants. Let's break down exactly what's happening and why this case could shape the future of how federal power is checked in the U.S. The controversy centers on Judge Boasberg's role in halting deportation flights of Venezuelan nationals to El Salvador, a decision made during a court hearing in March. According to the DOJ's complaint, Boasberg allegedly suggested in a private meeting of the Judicial Conference that the Trump administration might trigger a constitutional crisis by ignoring federal court orders. This meeting reportedly included Chief Justice John Roberts and several senior judges. The remarks, first reported by conservative media outlet The Federalist, were described as questioning the administration's willingness to follow the law. While judges are expected to remain impartial, the DOJ claims Boasberg crossed a line by implying that the executive branch could intentionally defy judicial authority, a serious allegation if true. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what led to this legal collision. In March, the Trump administration carried out deportation flights that sent Venezuelan migrants to a maximum security facility in El Salvador, despite an ongoing emergency hearing in federal court. Judge Boasberg had verbally ordered the government to pause deportations while legal arguments were heard. But just hours later, 3 flights had already taken off. That led Boasberg to issue a written ruling in April, stating that the government acted in bad faith and even suggesting there was probable cause to pursue contempt charges against DOJ officials. So, from Boasberg's perspective, it wasn't just about the flights, it was about a fundamental breach of judicial authority. Following that ruling, tensions spiked. The DOJ requested that Boasberg be removed from the case, arguing that his comments at the judicial conference made it impossible for him to remain unbiased. Although the appeals court paused Boasberg's contempt finding, it hasn't ruled on whether to disqualify him. At the same time, the administration has claimed that its deportation actions were taken under authority granted by the Alien Enemies Act, an 18th-century wartime law that gives the executive broad powers to remove foreign nationals during national emergencies. Boasberg's critics argue he failed to give proper legal weight to this authority, while his defenders say he was simply ensuring due process wasn't tossed aside in the rush to deport. The stakes got even higher when Attorney General Pam Bondi publicly announced the misconduct complaint, stating that Boasberg's comments had undermined the integrity of the judiciary. She took to social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, to say the judge's statements raised serious ethical questions. According to the filing, Boasberg's remarks violated judicial rules requiring impartiality and the appearance of neutrality in ongoing matters. The complaint also implies that his verbal order to halt deportations may have been influenced by personal bias rather than strict legal interpretation. The DOJ is calling not just for Boasberg's removal from the deportation case, but potentially even for disciplinary action up to impeachment. Judge Boasberg himself has not issued a public response, and his chambers have declined comment. But the judicial community is watching closely. Chief Justice John Roberts has already pushed back against direct calls from Trump to impeach Boasberg, defending the independence of the judiciary. That's rare. Roberts seldom weighs in on individual controversies, so his response is a strong signal about how seriously this episode is being taken. Other judges, both liberal and conservative, have voiced concern in recent years over rising attacks on judicial authority, especially when those critiques come from elected officials. The question now is whether Boasberg's alleged comments at the judicial conference were out of line or a reasonable warning in the face of unusual executive behavior. Meanwhile, the fallout from the deportation case is still being felt. More than 250 Venezuelan nationals who were initially deported have reportedly been returned to Venezuela in a quiet diplomatic deal that also included the release of 10 U.S. citizens held there. Critics of the administration argue that the rushed deportations were an attempt to sidestep legal scrutiny, while supporters claim the returns were vital for national security. But the political and legal clash continues to escalate. The Justice Department's move to target a sitting chief judge is almost unprecedented and signals just how far the administration is willing to go to defend its actions and challenge the judiciary's oversight. And this isn't the first time the DOJ under the Trump administration has gone after federal judges. A similar complaint was recently filed against U.S. District Judge Ana Reyes for sharp remarks she made while overseeing a case involving the transgender military ban. Add to that a lawsuit the DOJ filed against the entire federal bench in Maryland over deportation hold policies, and you start to see a broader pattern. Critics argue that the administration is waging a campaign to intimidate judges who rule against its policies. Others say it's a necessary corrective against judicial overreach. Either way, it raises deep questions about the balance of power in the American legal system. All eyes now turn to Chief Judge Sri Srinivasan of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He's responsible for reviewing the complaint and deciding whether it merits further investigation. If the review finds misconduct, Boasberg could face censure or even impeachment proceedings, though that would require congressional action. Legal experts are divided. Some say Boasberg's comments, if confirmed, suggest a lapse in judgment, but don't amount to misconduct. Others argue that even the appearance of bias could erode public trust in the courts. Regardless of the outcome, this situation is a defining moment for the American judiciary and a stress test for the norms that hold our constitutional system together. So what happens next? The court could dismiss the complaint, investigate further, or issue a formal reprimand. But no matter the decision, the message is clear. The battle lines between the judicial and executive branches are now more visible than ever. For viewers watching this unfold, remember, this isn't just about one judge or one administration. It's about whether the rule of law holds firm when the heat is on. We'll keep a close eye on how this plays out and bring you updates as they come. Until then, let us know in the comments, do you think Judge Boasberg crossed the line? Or is the DOJ trying to silence judicial oversight? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more real talk on real issues. What's especially unusual about this case is how it's turning a traditionally low-profile judicial process into a very public battle. Most misconduct complaints against judges are handled quietly, often without public disclosure unless disciplinary action is taken. But here, the Justice Department has taken the rare step of announcing the complaint publicly, right on social media. That suggests a strategic intent to apply public pressure, not just legal scrutiny. Legal analysts say this could set a dangerous precedent. If judges begin fearing retaliation for raising concerns, even behind closed doors, it could chill open dialogue within the judiciary. And that's a problem, because internal checks are a key way judges self-regulate without compromising independence. In short, this isn't just a legal conflict. It's a cultural shift in how American institutions talk to and about each other. Beyond the legal arguments, there's a broader question at stake. How much power should judges have to push back on executive actions they believe are unconstitutional or rushed? In Judge Boasberg's case, his defenders argue that he acted within his duties by raising red flags when he believed the administration was bypassing due process. His critics, meanwhile, say it's not a judge's job to speculate about constitutional crises, especially in meetings that aren't part of formal proceedings. That debate gets at the heart of judicial ethics and responsibility. Should judges speak plainly, even behind closed doors, when they're concerned about the direction of policy? Or should they strictly stick to rulings and let their decisions speak for themselves? There's no easy answer, but it's clear that whatever the resolution, it's going to influence how future judges think about their own roles. So, where does this all lead us? The outcome of this case could determine whether Judge Boasberg continues to oversee sensitive deportation matters, but the ripple effects go way beyond immigration. If the DOJ is successful in removing or reprimanding a federal judge for internal comments, it may open the door to more aggressive political pushback against judges in all kinds of cases: civil rights, environmental policy, even election law. For now, the system is holding, courts are reviewing, justices are responding, and procedures are being followed. But the pressure is growing. This episode will likely become a landmark example in law schools and legal circles for years to come. And as we've seen before, the tension between co-equal branches of government doesn't go away. It just finds new ways to surface. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.